It's just fantastic.
Captain's Log, Subdate 210627.4. After completing such a large video project, I really want to roast some chestnuts on crewman Bork's utterly frazzled body. I hear Ferengi's anguish is one of the finest condiments. Welcome everyone to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we have 4 subjects to go through. One is a bit of an honourable mention, but it's going to tie into the first subject handily. So to the first subject. We go to mature student Lisa Keogh, K-E-O-G-H, I don't know how to pronounce that, okay, who decided to go back into full-time education to get a law degree from the Abertay University, which is in Dundee, Scotland. She has 2 sons aged 9 and 7, and she felt that it would set them a good example if they could see her succeed at this age at university. What with sheeple crowd control though, her lessons became online seminars, and it was during one of these that Lisa got herself into a bit of trouble, because during a discussion on transgender issues, she said that women have vaginas, more notably that women are born with vaginas, and there is a difference in physical strength between men and women, and declared it a fact. Classmates didn't appreciate her saying this, so they reported her to the academic chiefs. And this has caused a bit of a problem for her because she now faces, because of a probe, accusations of being offensive and discriminatory. Also abusive, but that was a later suggestion. It is a fascinating discussion and there is some more context to it when it comes to children, what they're learning in schools about how women have vaginas and men have penises. But because we live in a more progressive country, it is believed that you can't get away with saying such things anymore. It's also interesting when kids then go to learn about the birds and the bees, suddenly it's not okay to talk about the very same thing when it comes to university. Britain's new equalities chief, Baroness Faulkner, said this month she was vowing to fight for women's rights to challenge transgender activism, because women must have a right to question transgender identity without being abused, stigmatized, or risk losing their jobs. The really bad timing for Lisa in all of this is she is due to sit her finals exams and hand in her dissertation, but she could well get disciplined and possibly kicked out of her degree because of this. Now I mentioned there's an honourable mention that ties into the first subject. There is. I saw this on Sydney Watson's Instagram and didn't believe it true until I found an article. Turns out, this Bitty Bug Soft Packer is actually a thing. It is marketed as a knitted penis for extremely small girls to wear in their pants if their parents believe them to be transgender. It is intended for girls so young they demonstrate the product in a diaper, i.e. a bulge of some kind, which is highly inappropriate. I know people make cock warmers, because my sister jokingly made some for I believe my brother-in-law and a friend of the family for Christmas, but this is a big no-no for me. In fact, I'm going to nope out of this subject because the very idea of these existing is a tad weird to me. And by a tad, I mean a considerably weird thing to me. So to move on from that, in anticipation of theme parks opening across the country of America, not including the states that have already opened because seriously they won't be controlled by anyone, a theme park in Anaheim, California has announced a brand spanking new sandwich. This sandwich is part of a Marveled themes section, which is fantastic news surely, right? For this, they're going to introduce a new sandwich called the quantum-sized Pim Ninny sandwich, which is so good that customers are being requested to hand over $100 to have a bite. $100 for a fecking sandwich. For the sake of best understanding why it costs so much, let's go through the ingredients. Salami, rosemary ham, provolone, sun-dried tomato spread on toasted focaccia with marinara dipping sauce, and arugula salad on the side. Just for the sake of it then, for those who go to these theme parks and are hungry, didn't think to bring anything with you perhaps, you can get a meal deal for like £3. You would end up saving $95, which you could then go and spend on random Disney tat that they claim to be collector's items, but there's over 10 million items of the same thing in the gift shop. And just for the sake of it, I'm a lover of sandwiches. It used to be a thing on this channel. I would receive sandwich wench videos. At no point did I think it right to con those lovely ladies and some blokes by making them make me super expensive sandwiches, which would cost them a lot of money to produce. We're excluding the Apocalypse in this one because that one was something special. There was a lot of meat. I was very happy. If you're British and you grew up in the 90s, 80s like I did, you will have heard of or possibly read comic books such as The Dandy or The Beano. I myself had a subscription service to The Beano as a kid, and it cost like 40p. I was a member of the Beano Club. I was very happy. My favourite were the numbskulls. I have on a number of occasions actually referenced the numbskulls within this series. So as to avoid getting cancelled though, the Beano have decided they need to make some changes. No, they're not going to change Dennis or Nasha or Minnie the Minx or the numbskulls. No. No, they're going to change the Bash Street Kids. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the Bash Street Kids, mostly because I felt that every story was exactly the same when it came to a classroom of children acting out in some manner. But that's not why they're changing things. There is a character within it called Fatty, whose actual name is Frederick Brown. This is Fatty. They've decided to change that name so as to not offend young readers by fat-shaming a cartoon, and will henceforth be calling him Freddy going forward. He will always be called Fatty to me, and considering the ludicrous nature of how some of those children look, I am very impressed. You think people will be offended by the one that looks like a bowling ball, and not the one that looks like a donkey with two trumpets stuck out the side of his head, or apparently the bold children at the front. When I was writing for this, I put down that perhaps instead of just reinventing characters, they simply have them graduate and finally bring in a new class. That way they can make them all as inclusive as possible and not be stuck with one perennial student class of the Bash Street Kids. For our final subject, I need to make an announcement, a public service announcement, everyone. Ready?
Taiwan is a country.
I swear when I heard that back, I sounded like my mate David. We need to know this for a very good reason. I need to establish it now. China does not own or control Taiwan. They try to, and Taiwan is ready to go to war. Undoubtedly they would lose, but Taiwan to me is a country. So's Hong Kong and Tibet. But because Winnie the Pooh is a totalitarian dickhead, many countries do not recognize Taiwan as a country, which is their mistake. For me, it will always remain a country. I see no reason why not, and I don't like China. Maybe that's my bias in this, especially with the Hong Kong mess. Maybe we should invite Taiwan over here as well, and make a new country for them as well. I'm okay with this, because I don't like China. So how does this tie into something stupid? Well, I'm glad no one asked. Former WWE rap god John Cena was giving interviews to promote Fast and Furious 9, and he said during an interview, Taiwan will be the first country to see the film. Understandably, the earlier mentioned totalitarian dickheads and Winnie the Shit decided in their infinite wisdom to lodge a few complaints. And because John Cena doesn't like to get too political, he, in fluent Mandarin, put out a very public apology.
你好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在在《速度与激情9》我做很多采访，很多，所以在一个采访，我有一个错误，所有人问我，如果我可以用中文。速度与激情9人给我很多资讯 information， 所以很多采访，很多 information， 我有一个错误，我必须说现在就是很重要，我爱更尊重中国跟中国人，我很抱歉对我的错误，对不起，我很抱歉，必须了解。
Which he has been utterly flayed for by literally everyone. Can anyone guess why? That's right. Because, as is cliche at this point, many people are simply taking a knee before China whenever they lodge a complaint. Something as simple as recognizing another country as being another country that they do not own. they can claim to own, but they really don't. Nor should they ever. All they've ever done over the last 30 to 50 years is seize things that don't belong to them. And for some peculiar reason, everyone is bowing down before them. I assume because money plays a factor. And it's more recently interesting when it comes to China that things have finally started to prove a certain previous president right when it comes to certain reports that are being quashed by the current president and are not being reported by anyone, and if I make comments about it on YouTube, I get yeeted. I find this to be quite frustrating, by the way. Now, as we're done, I do want to know what you all think. Please do let me know in the comments down below. As a final thing, I shall be streaming on Twitch tonight. If I don't see you there, have a fantastic day, and thank you all very much for listening.